I don't know if you've got it on you now, but for a long time you carried a card in your wallet by the great Armenian-American author, William Surain. And there was a quote from this, I think, part of a lengthier quote, but there's a bit that says, "Despise evil and ungodliness, but not men of ungodliness or evil. These understand, have no shame in being kindly and gentle, but if the time comes in the time of your life to kill, kill and have no regret." It's a powerful quote.
It is, yeah. I don't think I knew what it meant really until, like I said, as you said, I carried that around forever. It made some visceral impact on me, and I could tell, I could recognize the kind of the rhythm of the thoughts in a way that was provocative, more provocative, say, than anything I'd read in a short form like that. And so I kept it with me, thinking I knew what it meant, but sort of like the way an onion gets peeled. It wasn't until I got to Ukraine where I really felt like, okay, now I understand this thing.
Does any part of you understand, as he wrote there, about Putin, clearly a man of evil, many would say, I certainly would. But if you're playing devil's advocate, trying to get into his brain, do you understand why this guy thought the breakup of the Soviet Union was the worst thing that's ever happened to his country, felt like the NATO encroachment, as he saw it closer and closer to the Russian border, was a threat to the Russian people? I mean, does any part of that make any sense to you, or do you think it's just an excuse for his land grab?
It's what I call kind of the bulb, no bulb people. You see the light of humanity in some people. So whatever the sort of speculation is, and I've read some of the histories of Putin and seen some of the documentaries, and I've certainly listened to better brains than mine talk about that and sort of analyze him. I think essentially what this is an unimaginative person, someone whose bulb either never got fully put on and therefore was not distracted by the colors of life that the rest of us embrace.
Donald Trump says he would resolve this war in 24 hours.
I think in the United States, Donald Trump is guilty most of being a adolescent influencer of cheap thought. And cheap thought is very expensive. Again, I go back to what America should be searching for in a Democrat or a Republican. It's an aspirational figure, not someone you hang your lowest denominator.
You went on Sean Hannity's show on Fox News, which I thought was a really interesting moment. When you did that, that's a big deal for you to do that. You're going into what I guess would have been historically a kind of media enemy's lair.
Yeah.
But you were prepared to do that, to have that debate. And it was a very interesting interview, actually.
While there's incredible influence by media figures, by political figures, if somebody has had no experience with real bomb throwers, perhaps they should hold that phrase and come up with something more particular to what their concern is, because it just makes it, again, it's exaggerated and or just a perversion of what's really going on. I don't know about you, but most people I talk to, once you get it off the standard conversation of policy or personality, around the world, they want the same thing. They want a better world for themselves and their family tomorrow. They want education for their kids. It's the most common denominator.
And they can be quite reasonable. However unreasonable they may have sounded, and when you get past that, you can have what used to be perfectly normal conversation in a free democratic society.
Right.
But now we're in a world where cancel culture is a very real thing.
Right.
And you know better than anyone the dangers of this. What happened to your father, who was ostracized by Hollywood when he wouldn't throw his friends under the bus, when there was that huge, what was it, the big investigation into whether they were communists or whatever it may be. He refused to take part in that, and he never really got his career back as a result. That was cancel culture. And of course, he played Harvey Milk, again, a perfect illustration of what a world can do when it wants to cancel people. Now it's so much more prevalent now.
Yeah.
It's like people get cancelled for having an opinion, just saying what they honestly believe about stuff.
Yeah.
How have we got there?
I say I would, I'm a little bit borrowing from Stephen Fry here. He gives this great closing argument at the end of a Monk debate on political correctness. And I think maybe, and it will seem ironic that I respond this way, maybe we've taken ourselves too seriously. And
have you included?
Perhaps at the forefront many times.
You said that you fly a big American and Ukrainian flag at your home in Malibu. You said, I'm a big proponent of the idea we start waving flags again, even if we're on the left, and we don't worry that our neighbours are going to think we suddenly became a MAGA hawk, which is what some of my friends accuse me of. So just for having an American flag flying,
yeah, but again,
that apparently is now offensive.
The left will have, the left. A lot of friends of mine, we got to take the flag back, or we got to share it again.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that countries find true unity often in the worst possible circumstance. I felt that when I went to New York after 9/11, it felt like the whole country was united in that moment in a way I hadn't seen America probably in my lifetime. Similarly, I think, you had the same experience with Haiti and how the Haitians came together. I certainly felt it, I think you did in Ukraine, that the Ukrainian people were just almost completely as one in their desire to save their country, preserve their freedom, back their president. That wasn't the case before the war started.
No, but all the more, as important as our support of them to dominate this, to return their freedom and sovereignty to themselves and to rebuild their country, is the long-term plan. This is the opportunity for mankind, for all free thinking
But why
people.
can't we unify?
That we remember that once that's resolved, we have to have the spirit and resources in place for it to be the example of it continuing beyond them unified under war.
That was the question I was going to ask you.
The leading example.
Why do we find it so hard to continue the unity when we get back to a more peaceful time?
I think unities are cannibalized first by those who are promoting unity. I think things blow up from the inside of an idea, and I think even in the case of Russia after 1994, I remember the relief. The Cold War is over, people are dancing. I don't think we ever looked back and noticed that the Russians were not feeling the relief that the world was feeling, and that gangsterism had replaced communism, and the bread lines were just as long, and things didn't get better for them. And you let that happen over time, and somebody like Putin is able to come back, take power, and do what he's doing.
We need strong leadership, never more so than from America. Does it worry you, the thought that Trump may win again? Because nothing they're throwing at him seems to make any difference. In fact, it all seems to increase his popularity, all these indictments and so on.
I know there's a lot of speculation that he may, and a lot of speculation that he may not. I think that my concern would, if I could, I'd like an x-ray of who we are in America today. Is that really possible? Because before Trump, that would be the problem. If we're still ready to let everything we stand for and everything my father's generation and those before stood for, and I don't mean that they accomplished all their tasks for everybody. We know that never happened, and that we hope it still can. But if we go soft and yellow and decide we're going to let it go and let this guy, as Judge Souter once said, take the ball and roll with it, then I'm going to have to find my pride in a glass of vodka.
I'd take more than one glass of vodka, Sean.